And a good spiritual morning once again. Thanks for joining us. I'm Father Cosmas.
And I'm Pres Michelle.
And thanks for joining us today for a quick chat and, of course, our morning cup of coffee.
I'm holding some Calvin and Hobbes here today because we are going to talk about
back to school. And I've got a mug from Columbia, California, because you went on a field trip.
I did with our youngest.
Last year, right?
Yes.
Last school year, and brought this back for me to use for our videos. And so we're talking about, like you said, going back to school. You got Calvin and Hobbes there. Kids love Calvin and Hobbes.
They do. And I think this is more of what parents look like when kids go back to school than what kids look like. I think we do the happy dance more than the kids
So we
do.
are, well, you can be happy when the kids are going back to school. We've done this for a while. We've got 6 kids, and we still have kids going. We've got 4 kids technically going back to school, 2 in college, 1 in junior high, 1 in elementary school.
And when the one in elementary school comes home and I say, "Hi, honey, how was your day? What's your teacher like?" "What do you mean, what's my teacher like?" "Well, how old is she? Is she my age? Is she..." "Oh, no, Mom, she's way younger than you are." So that was a punch in the gut. That was good.
Yeah, that's nice. That's always fun to hear that, from your kids, just unexpectedly. "Hey, you're old." It's an interesting thing. Well, it's funny to go, I have to share this, going to school. And obviously I go help pick the kids up quite a bit. So we're both there. And the wonderful design, of course, of how they design these campuses for drop-off and pickup. It's as if they think that there's 5 parents that are coming and going. And so you get a chance to spend some time in the drop-off and pickup, an hour or so to pick up your kids up. And so you see the humanity, right? You see these parents coming. And I have to say, this might be a little off color, but I'm going to say it. I'm shocked sometimes as the parents are coming in to pick up their kids. And I'm thinking, that's a parent? I mean, I know I feel old and I look old, but I'm sort of saying that person is responsible for the life of another person. That's a little bit frightening, terrifying. But anyway,
we are old.
Favorite memories of the kids going back to school over the years. Pictures of them, with the little backpack, walking down, getting on the bus. We lived in a place that actually had school buses. We don't have those anymore in California. And but it's okay. The first day of school, kind of, it's special. Any favorite thoughts or memories on that?
I love the pictures. I like comparing. A lot of parents compare the picture from kindergarten to 6th grade or kindergarten to senior year of high school. I like comparing. I think that what they say, you don't believe it when you're a young parent, but the days are long, but the years are short. Right. That's something that comes to my mind as kids start school in the fall.
And I feel like the older you get, the more that is true. Yeah, the days seem to be 40 hours, 50 hours, but the years seem to be 3 weeks. And they go by quick. So also going back to school now, you have a more unique perspective because you're working in the schools. I mean, you did last year as a para, right?
Right. I wasn't trained to be an educator, but in California, I've had the opportunity. I'm very grateful. And now I'm being a substitute at the school that our children go to, at the school district, in the school district. And I think Father and I like to reflect on the fact that you can tell when parents are engaged in the life of their kids and the education of their students. And I think that we're kind of preaching to the choir. I think a lot of our parents are very involved,
right?
But it's important to pay attention to the fact that it's a team effort. It takes a village, and kids, it's a different world, and they need family involvement in their education.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell the kids that have some support and where education is valued, obviously, and you can tell where it's not so supported and valued. And it makes all the difference. And I think maybe the take home for us in our spiritual life as Orthodox Christians, I think we go through the same thing. And I see the same thing, parishes that I've been at. You can tell people that value sort of ongoing education, deepening their relationship with Christ, being okay actually buying a book from your bookstore on the life of a saint or a prayer book or something, even if you're giving it as a gift for somebody else. But that idea that you're cultivating and deepening your relationship with Christ through education, that's absolutely essential. And we have to have that in the Orthodox faith. We can never think, I know. I know enough. I don't need to learn anything. I mean, at this point, it is what it is. What am I going to learn now? Well, there's always more to learn, no matter how old we are.
Well, I think you're depriving yourself of the opportunity for a beautiful door to open and for you to say, I never knew that. I didn't understand that. And I think what we all know is when you pick up a good book, any book, it's almost like a trip you're taking, right?
Sure.
It's something different. So in the faith, like you said, we're robbing ourselves of getting closer to Christ. And you know that more than ever because you meet with people constantly who say, well, I never knew that. And you're like, well, I got a book for that. I got a book for
Right. There
that.
are there are lots of books for that, and there are lots of very simple books out there now.
Yeah.
There's so much available nowadays. I mean, when we were younger, there were not a lot of books available, especially in English.
Yeah.
And now there's more publishers. There's so much available. There's so many, especially lives of modern saints. I try to recommend to people all the time because I know no one wants to read a textbook. Lord knows I don't want to read a textbook. But I love to read about the saints and to learn about the saints so I can sort of see the Bible in practice, right?
Yeah.
Seeing it being lived. And of course, the primary book we should be reading is the Bible. I don't mean to sort of diminish that
Right.
because, of course, as Orthodox Christians, we don't do that either. But we should be trying, just as a general thought, deepen our relationship with Christ and do that through an ongoing educational process. Never think, I'm too old or I can't learn that or I know enough or I know everything. I can assure you in the conversations I've had with people, you don't know everything. People make mistakes on things all the time, very fundamental things. They'll come up and say, Father, this is what we think about the liturgy, right? And it's completely bonkers. They have no idea, right, what they're saying. This is what we think about communion, or this is what we think about who Christ is, right? I'm like, no, please don't ever say that again. That's
I
totally
remember when you had to
wrong.
say that.
I did actually have to say that at one point. I was in a catechism class
Yeah, 20 years ago.
years and years
Yeah.
ago, and we were talking about different things about the aspects of Christ and redemption and salvation,
Yeah.
and it was a little bit more subtle, theological conversation. And someone who was actually Orthodox, who was not converting, raised their hand, and this was a relatively older person, more senior person, and said, "This is how I feel about how this works when Christ is God and is on the cross." And I did kind of jokingly, because there was a whole class of
Yeah.
converts. I sort of said, "Please don't ever say that again," because it was an absolute distortion of our faith. And of course, this person was very nice and thought, "Well, this is how I understand it."
Yeah.
And that's the problem. We sort of think, "Well, I don't have to look into it to learn. I'll just kind of make it up and make sense of it in my head and understand it the way I think it should be, and then that must be right, right?" And no, it's
And you'll
not a
never
good
be
thing.
disappointed with the research that you do in Orthodoxy. You will never be disappointed with the answers. That's the beauty of our faith. The foundation is so stable. You please ask questions, but search for the right answers, and that's what you're saying. Ongoing education.
Right. And so that's something to think about as we're going
Yeah.
back to school. This is
Yeah.
that time for educational time. I know a lot of people watching the videos might not have kids. Maybe you have grandkids or you have relatives or friends. Their kids are going back to school. It's school season, school shopping, kids' first few weeks of school. So we're thinking about education, and we should rededicate ourselves to our own deepening of our relationship with Christ, educating ourselves and knowing that that's a good thing. It's something we should want for ourselves, and we should want that each and every day. Amen.
Amen.